Okay. Time to be the captain. So dead brother, huh? Yeah, it could be annoying.
Well, he's been dead before. This time I think it really might be true.
And you said your sister and your dad?
Both dead.
But still got a mom, though?
Killed by a dark elf.
A best friend?
Stabbed through the heart.
You sure you're up to this particular murder mission?
Absolutely. Rage and vengeance, anger, loss, regret, they're all tremendous motivators. They really clear the mind, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, but, I mean, this Thanos we're talking about, he's the toughest there is.
Well, he's never fought me.
Yeah, he has.
He's never fought me twice. And I'm getting a new hammer, don't forget.
Well, it better be some hammer.
I'm 1,500 years old. I've killed twice as many enemies as that, and every one of them would have rather killed me, but none succeeded. I'm only alive because fate wants me alive. Thanos is just the latest in a long line of bastards, and he'll be the latest to feel my vengeance. Fate wills it so.
Mm-hmm. And what if you're wrong?
Well, if I'm wrong, then what more could I lose?
What's up and welcome back. Just like I said, this part of the episode, we're going to dive into a topic that is still considered taboo a little bit in the modern day world, but we are getting better about talking about it. And then something that we more often than not ignore in the superhero world. We think that everybody can just go out there and save the day and not have any effects. But Lauren and I don't know anything, so we brought a special guest on for this portion of the episode, who we will get to in just a second. So unofficially, this portion of the podcast is sponsored on my end by Idlewild Brewing Company and their delicious S'mores Stout, which is brewed with chocolate malts, graham crackers, marshmallow fluff, and finished with vanilla. And it's weighing in at a roasty, toasty 6.5% ABV. And it's always stout season for me. I don't care if it's hot. I don't care if it's cold. If it's too hot for you, just crank the AC up a little bit. I don't know. Do what you got to do. I love a good stout, a lot of flavor, a lot of good flavor profile. And this beer is fantastic. If you happen to be in the Boise, Garden City area, they just opened up recently. They're a very new brewery. So go check them out. And that's what this portion of my part is sponsored by unofficially. Lauren, what are you drinking?
This is not an uncommon sponsor for myself. I got a little bit of Tripping Animals from Doral, Florida. Although it is a collab with Amigos with their Amigos from Barrier Brewing Company. It's called Hippo Hooray. It's a triple IPA with Citra, Azacca, and Simcoe hops. And I thought about drinking a Tracy beer today. And if you've been listening to us for a while, you're familiar with the Tracy beer because Tracy is awesome and she sends Matt and I beers quite often. Yes. And many times we've been drinking the same beer while recording because Tracy has sent them to both of us.
Yes.
Because today we have a guest that Tracy sent us. So we've upgraded from beers to an awesome guest.
She doesn't stop at just beer. She doesn't stop at wonderful friendships. She actually hooks us up with some pretty cool people.
There you go. Tracy just gets better and better the more you get to know her. But why did I pick a hippo, you ask? Because even though I can't, when we had Hayat on here, I'm going to keep dropping this. It's like name dropping. The director's assistant from Moon Knight, when she came on, she said the name multiple times and she said it beautifully. But the hippo goddess from Moon Knight is why I picked this beer. So it's got an awesome little hippo on it, and I'm drinking it out of my Fat Thor glass, which we definitely will at least mention and talk about a little bit because I feel like he's the first character that we really saw go through some normal shit. Of course, we saw Tony have panic attacks, but Thor, I mean, he lost so much.
Don't diminish.
Yeah. So I'm not diminishing, but that's why I chose this beer tonight and this glass. And I can't wait to get into the nitty gritty of it because we're not just talking about mental health as far as superheroes. This is also a beer podcast. And, we're a spinoff from Hops News. We don't talk about beer too much on this show. We really just introduce what we're drinking. But it's a big thing to be very aware of in the beer industry. And that is often glossed over. And people need to be reminded, like, you can very quickly connect mental health issues with alcohol abuse. So I think it is double fold that it would make sense for Superheroes and a beer podcast to be talking about this. We're a little bit late. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but we decided to talk about Star Wars the whole month instead. So we're doing it in June.
Look, there's a lot of mental health to discuss in Star Wars. Again, you're just glossing over important things. Jeez, let it breathe. Yes, we do have a great guest. So Tracy sent us Andrew, who is, I'm going to let him introduce yourself. So Andrew, introduce yourself. Welcome to Hanging Out. Tell us kind of what you do and who you are, and also your geek origin story. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you to Tracy for making the introduction. My name is Andrew Hewitt. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner, licensed in the and board certified in the state of Florida. I have worked in a practice called Kinsler Psychology. They're in Lutz, Florida, which is like Pasco County. But like I said, we have patients all over the state through technology. Now I can see patients anywhere.
You got any openings? I might have some things I need to discuss.
Yes, I do. I have my Thursdays are usually wide open, and most of Fridays. So yes, by all means. I've been
Matt's laughing. He's not kidding.
I'm not. I'm serious. I do have openings.
Thursdays are open. Well, what do you know? This show has actually turned into a session. We're gonna just go ahead and we're gonna build Jay on this one.
We're gonna build Jay.
I worked as a psychiatric nurse for 3 years at a high acuity inpatient behavioral health unit in the Tampa Bay area. It was while going to school full time for my nurse practitionership, and it was dangerous. I mean, it was fun at the same time. You'd have people come in, and all of a sudden, after they're there for like 2 or 3 days, they would decide to try to stab you with a toothbrush that wasn't the same toothbrush that what we issued on the unit.
Jeez,
so it came from somewhere, and it was pretty sharp too. So it was. He had it well hidden and safely hidden, and at the same time there was success story. You start dealing with patients that would improve, and you'd start to actually be like, oh my God, this works. It's not just the same people coming in and out on a revolving door. And as far as my geek origin, it goes way back. To 1977 when a movie came out by the name of Star Wars.
I don't know if I've heard of that.
That no one, it was like nothing we, had ever seen
before. Little known property.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever seen it or heard of it, but and then it was just off to the races. I mean, television. I'm much older than you guys, so I grew up with TV in the 70s and 80s, and there was everything imaginable to watch. I mean, you like action? There was the A-Team. You wanted action, but some sci-fi? Well, there was Knight Rider with a car that talked and had and it was a Camaro. Oh no, I think that one was a Firebird. But there was everything, and then there was a show, Automan. That was a character that came out of Desi Arnaz Jr.'s computer and helped him fight crime.
I don't think I've even heard of that one. Obviously, I know
he had a Lamborghini. He had a Ninja motorcycle, and he drove, and he only made 90-degree turns because, as a video game, that's all you were able to do.
That's what my daughter did for the first year she was driving.
He's Zoolander. He can only turn left.
Oh yeah. Then there was a show, Street Hawk, which was Knight Rider but with a motorcycle. And then over the years, just things, other things come up and happen. Like thankfully, the MCU and the Star Wars Rebirth, which I'm very excited for. I'm not one of those people like, oh, this isn't perfect. Blah, blah, blah. I love every single thing that I've watched that's come out. Like I go in with no expectations, other than I'm going to sit here for an hour and a half. Other than that, whatever else happens,
or 3 hours.
I need 3 hours, depending. Yeah. I need to learn how to go in with no expectations. I think I'd enjoy a lot of things because.
And let me tell you, it's awesome. Like there wasn't one movie that I've watched that was bad. They're not all great. There's definitely levels. Yeah, I did not see Morbius. Only because it was in and out so quickly that I feel like I didn't have a chance.
But I'm surprised at how many people don't like Thor: Dark World. Like I found that movie to be enjoyable, and I guess that's what it is.
That's where we first learned about the multiverse premise.
Yeah.
Although, Lauren,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. You talk crap about Batman v Superman, so I don't want to
Well,
hear
that movie's
I just go
terrible.
in there
I
with
had no expectations, and that movie was still bad.
I just don't
Just
know
the
why
Martha
they
scene.
went with Doomsday in that movie. Like, that's like a whole other, like, that would have been a whole other movie.
Yeah.
We're not getting
Gave
into
it
And that's
away.
not even the worst part.
It will turn into a session pretty quickly if we get into this movie.
He could do a whole session on just Batman versus Superman and The Last Jedi. He has a lot of feelings about that one
yeah.
too.
Really? I'm sorry.
It hurts. It hurts. But we don't want to talk about my problems. We want to talk about some superhero problems. Maybe we talk about kind of a certain character who has made his comeback for the first time in 17 years on the live screen by the name of Ben Kenobi,
General Kenobi.
the Negotiator.
Kenobi.
I do that around the house.
Oh, I do too. I'll
My
yell at my
stepdaughter will
kids.
come home from school and I'll be like, General Kenobi. And she just
I just like to pop around the corner at work and be like, "Hello there."
Yeah. Hello there.
How upset did you get when he just said hello? And what was it?
I was
Yeah.
Did he forget the other word? Did he
He's like,
develop
you
a
gotta not
stutter?
be me. Yeah.
He's saving it for when he chops Vader up again, and he's just like, "Well, hello there."
All right. We just said we don't go into this with expectations, but if I don't get one hello there, I'm starting a
Yeah.
petition.
Need a single
Most
hello
definitely
there.
would be disappointed.
Yes. Well, so let's kind of dive into that then. Kenobi, the man has a lot going on.
Yes.
From your perspective, what are some things that you've seen? What are some things that you're like, I don't really know? And what are some things that you're like, wow, they actually are portraying this pretty well in that show?
Right off the bat, PTSD, depression. He has the nightmares that would go along with PTSD. Isolation. One of the things I deal with at work is my specialty is men's mental health, and we came up with a series of videos where I break down the characters from the MCU with and try my best to diagnose them without taking the fun out of the movies. And my boss just said to me, "Could you do these things where you talk about the characters in the movie, but I want you to do that on video." So we started doing it, and it's working out pretty well. But back to Kenobi, he's without a doubt textbook PTSD.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Star Wars, you got to think a lot of people. There's for as much of a space opera adventure journey movie show that this is, how much it brings joy to people. There's a lot of loss. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Kenobi loses his mentor / father figure because he was taken as a young child.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's stuck basically parenting this slave boy child, Anakin.
Who he didn't want, nor did he feel he was even ready to lose his master. And all of a sudden he's master to
Exactly.
somebody else.
He's kind of thrust into that role. And
After
then
watching his master be murdered.
stabbed right in front of his eyes. Yeah. And then the love of his life dies in his arms after Darth Maul
Ugh.
kills her. And then not only the one thing that he has lived for his entire life is the Jedi Order, the Republic. That's where his allegiances are. Well, that in the snap of an overnight crumbles down, and it's this brother figure that he has had his entire, a good portion of his life has been the one who's done it. And so he has to fight him, and he ends up thinking he kills him. He spends 10 years believing that he has killed his brother, only to find out that he hasn't. And so it's a lot of people are kind of like, oh, he's not reconnecting with the Force, or, he's not Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's the guy has gone through a lot. And like you said, textbook PTSD. It's heavy. Put yourself in his shoes. Yeah, it's all imaginary.
And never mind that, but the
like,
loss that he's witnessed, he had to go to the. I mean, he's fought in wars. He had to see loss of civilian life and damages and everything else that goes along with actually fighting on the front lines, and that takes a huge toll on us, on a person.
And he no longer has anybody around him that cares for him. It's like even when he tries to reach out to Luke, Owen is he gets sassy with him and has a pretty good comeback. Like, you trained his father. But yeah, he's lost all those people that are important to him. And that's honestly what drives me nuts about the Jedi Order in general. And I think why Ahsoka is so many of our favorite character, because she left the Jedi Order because she realized what was wrong with it is that you can't just suppress emotions and they're forced to. And Obi-Wan Kenobi does, I think, the best job of any of them of suppressing it, other than maybe Yoda, because he manages to but he does tell Satine, if you had asked me to leave, I would leave. But my question is, the Kenobi we see now is very much so brought down by PTSD, but the Kenobi we first met, obviously the older one, he's come to terms with everything. He's very okay with everything. He even knows when he's about to die, and he's okay with it. So how does one get there? Like, what is the progression you think we'll see through the next 2 episodes and in Kenobi Part 2?
I think we'll see. We started to see in this last episode, episode 4, that he's starting to get his confidence back. He's starting to feel a little bit of himself again because he has a purpose right now. He's protecting Leia. He's not just standing off on a cliff looking at Luke run around on the moisture farm with binoculars. He's actually doing something, and he's connecting with someone. A lot of men deal with things one way. We self-isolate and use substances to help cope. And he has disconnected because he's lost. He only has like 1 or 2 other people, and he has to be away from them too. So he's definitely has a feeling of purpose again, which is helping. And you saw that in this last episode, from struggling to make the droid move at the beginning of the episode to holding back an ocean behind the glass windows that were breaking, and then use that force to bring the water in on all the windows and break. That took tremendous strength and mental fortitude.
Yeah. So
do you think him becoming weak with the Force this past 10 years was because he was depressed?
Oh, definitely.
Well, he cuts himself off from the Force is how I took it, right? He completely shuts it off.
I think in his head, and you definitely correct me if I'm wrong, in his head, he did that to protect himself and to protect Luke.
He may have,
At the same time, it seemed like it was also because he didn't want to be connected to any of it, because that was essentially to him the downfall of everything. Oh, definitely. And then, like you said, if he did it to protect himself and from Luke, like that's more loss that he's dealing with. Like the essence of his personality, his faith, all of that. Like he stopped praying. If a devout Catholic or a devout Muslim came to you one day and was like, "Hey, I'm not going to pray anymore," and you'd be like, why? And you would see like they would start to get depressed because something's missing from something that's so important to them is now missing. That was like, it was just more lost by disconnecting with the Force for whichever the motivation was. I didn't even think of that, but yeah.
So in your opinion, you mentioned men self-isolate or use substances. From your experience, why do we kind of, as men, do we tend to go for that? Is there like a correlation between upbringing or the fact that men just don't feel like they can be open with their mental health? Oh, it's definitely the stigma of mental health. Men, we, especially like Gen X, I think is the last of it. I think millennials and Gen Z, hopefully, I'm hoping that they turn the tide. But Gen X, we still have those. We think that we have to live up to those expectations of our parents. Our parents, especially like, I'll just take my dad for example. My dad thought he was John Wayne. He was dying of lung cancer. I mean, dying of lung cancer under hospice care. Would not take morphine. Jeez. Why do I need that? I'm like, dude, first of all, you're dying, but you're in tremendous pain. I'll be fine. Like, no, but they have that mindset. They have to be that Rooster Cogburn type, and where nothing phases. And Gen X, we are kind of going the other way with it, and I'm really hoping, like I said, millennials and Gen Z turn this around. But it's the stigma. We feel like we can't, if we talk about what's wrong, we might appear weak, and we don't want to appear weak. Right. Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point. We don't, because you mentioned, you have a family, I have a family. It's kind of those, you're so focused on making sure everybody's taken care of, because if they see dad as the weakest one, now how does that play off for everybody else? Like I get up every day. I get up
6 days a week, I will get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I start my day. Whether I take care of the dog.
Oh my God, you're like my husband. Y'all are nuts.
You see her back there? I mean, I know.
Oh, okay.
She
yeah,
has to
the
be
puppy.
fed at 4 a.m. and she makes it known that she has to be fed. So I get up, take care of her. I work out. I start my day, make sure my wife could get up and she could start her day about an hour and a half later. There's one day a week where I don't do that. And that's on Sunday. I will sleep in. My wife gets up, takes care of the dog, and some things around the house that need to get taken care of. And I will wake up, and I say this to her every Sunday. I feel like a bum. And she's like, "Why?"
Oh, yeah.
It's 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. I'm still drinking tea. I haven't done anything. Don't you? Do you need something? Should I run to the store? You know.
Guys love to run errands. You guys want to always run errands.
It is
What, we're
funny
at a
he
creamer?
says
I
that.
can run up to Publix.
I thought it was just a me thing. So I'm usually up at like 6:30, even if it's a weekend.
Yes.
I get the kids ready. I get the wife's coffee going. I get the car started, during work days.
See, they aren't morning people either, so they're waking up with me.
And then I get my me
That's up for
time.
hours.
And then on Saturdays or Sundays, I feel like I have to be cleaning. I have to do laundry. It's like, like you said, we need coffee creamer? All right, I'll go right now. I do that all the time.
Saturday morning, 7 a.m., I am at Publix doing the grocery shopping, my end of the grocery shopping for the week. And it's like for the week to come. And by 7:30, I'm home, the stuff's away, the dog's been fed and walked, and I've worked out and I've taken a shower. Every other Saturday at 8 o'clock, I have a hair appointment. I get my hair cut and I get a shave. So by the time I come home on those Saturdays, it's 10 o'clock. Everyone's still just waking up in the house.
It's the us time, right?
Yeah,
That's
But I feel awesome when I do that. And Sunday, it's like, it sounds terrible. Oh, I slept till 7 o'clock on Sunday to me, But my wife's like, I wish you would sleep till 8, 9 o'clock on a Sunday. There's nothing for you to do. You have everything under control. You've taken care of so much. But I feel like I'm useless if I'm not doing stuff for them,
Yeah, and so it's so interesting because here we're probably thinking, well, more me, so it's like that's just I don't know why I'm this way. But come to find out, we're diving into it like this is just a man thing.
Yeah, my me time is, and I think it's a lot of moms, we stay up extra late because that's when everybody's settled, everybody's in bed. 9. The thing is, okay, so this past Wednesday, I woke up, I fell asleep at like 10. So I woke up like an hour before my alarm went off. And I was like, I'm going to go ahead and get up and I'm going to go out to the living room and watch Kenobi. Before the episode was finished, I already had one kid asking me for food. And my husband was he left early that morning to go on an out of town trip. But oh my God, Logan has to be fed every hour. But I mean, yeah, he's like a gremlin though. You can't feed him after midnight or he'll be up all night. But you mentioned working out multiple times. So how much do you think that correlates to mental health?
Oh, when I go out in the garage in the morning to work out, that is my me time. My phone's still on silent. I have my headphones on. And that is where I work everything. My mind doesn't stop. I have stuff on my mind, whether it's my anxiety or just the fact that I overthink stuff. But that is my time. And this is why I work out early in the morning because I tried working out later in the day and it's just too much with people asking me questions. Not
oh my God. Family, and nobody leaves you alone. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's like, because you do
a plank and your kid think it's an opportunity to climb on you.
Oh yeah. Oh, the dog has put her head on me. She'll paw at me, but the phone, we live in a time when we're expected to always be reached. And between my jobs that I have and some side stuff that, my wife and I have going on where we do food prep and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, the phone doesn't stop. So when I'm out there in the garage working out, that is my time. That is when I try to work out some stuff in my head. I try to regain my focus for the day to come.
Yeah, that's what I use basketball time for. For instance, I play basketball a few times a week, and that's my time.
Mm-hmm. Too many people don't prioritize that, though.
Yeah.
It's even if, I get my run in with the 5-year-old randomly throwing stuff at me and asking me to peel an orange while I'm running, it's still vital. As much as I hate it, I feel like it's still vital for my physical and mental health. And I feel like that's often, I don't have time. And yes, we are all super busy, but I don't know. I don't want to call that self-care because honestly, I hate working out, but it's necessary.
It is.
You're right. And I've seen that with my husband when he's not working out, when he doesn't prioritize that, his anxiety level increases. He gets more stressed.
Yes. Same. I start to feel stressed, anxious, all that stuff as well. So it's very interesting, right? We're kind of diving into it. It's like, no, we're all kind of that way.
Right.
And looking at like my wife, like you said, her time is, she likes to watch trash television at night. And so that's her thing. Me, I'm asleep by like 8:39 because throughout the day we're out there running through everything, taking care of everything else up early. And so like I'll play video games or whatever. I'll read comic books, things like that. I go to the gym. That's kind of like my downtime where I like to clean. So it's all fascinating how we look at these and then how it translates to these characters. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned kind of going into the superhero aspect. Your employer was like, can you do videos of these? So first of all, where can people find these videos? And then what are some things that you've kind of noticed that maybe the untrained eye may not have noticed about some of our favorite superheroes in the mental health aspect?
Oh, okay. The videos are on YouTube, and just look up Kinsler Psychology or Kinsler. I could look right now just to be sure. But if you put in Kinsler Psychology in the search, they'll come up. And
we'll have the link in the podcast description too.
All right, cool. And then the videos are right there. And I don't know what prompted her to ask me, because I really don't talk much at work and as far as like stuff that I do, but I've been creating online content since like 2007. And again, my work people, they don't know anything about that stuff. That's like a whole other like life sort of for me. So she's just like, could you do that? I was like, yeah, I could do it. And then we did one, and she was like, you just like being in front of the camera. I was like, yeah, I don't mind. She's like, what would you like to do? You know, if we wanted to do more videos, what would they be on? I was like, I don't know, mental health and the Marvel movies. And she's like, let me see one. So we did one, and she's like, all right, I want do as many as you want now. And then we have like 8 that we've done that are just being edited. And everyone in the office is like, hey, do you think you could do this character? I'm like, I probably can, you know.
Well, and that's a good segue. You know, we saw Thor go from Thor to quote unquote fat Thor. Yes. And I know there was a lot of people that were like, I love that they're showing this superhero going through stuff, and, you know, we can see it physically and in the dialogue as well. But then there were a lot of people also that were like, okay, Thor's depression, because he lost everything, was a punchline. So how do you think that
like Matt just said one thing that like a lot of people haven't noticed. The way everyone treats Thor in Endgame is terrible. They make fun of him. They call him fat. Rhodey was in particular terrible to him. Like his
Cheese Whiz line.
Yeah, Cheese Whiz line, the ice cream lines. Like, he's suffering, and you're ridiculing him. He wasn't even making a joke. You were ridiculing him and belittling someone who's already down.
Yeah.
But I feel like Cap didn't, because Cap has been on the opposite spectrum of that.
Well, Cap, if you see, he holds like a therapy session where he's talking with everybody. Yeah. So Cap understands, and especially
with one of the Russo brothers.
Exactly. Yes. So Cap's holding a therapy session, whereas I know for men, kind of from my experiences, we like to joke. That's kind of that's how I get through things.
Yeah.
As I make jokes. And so I kind of get it. But yeah, like Thor, he's been living with that guilt for 5 years that he should have went for the head. Like, this is all his fault.
Like, Tony calling him Lebowski was a joke. Everything that Rhodey said and Rocket was just absolutely terrible. And that's the last thing you want to do when you have a friend of yours who's suffering from depression and at the level that Thor was.
Yeah, you did see Tony be a little bit empathetic, and even when they were talking about who's going to snap, I believe it was Tony that was like, "You're not in the right mindset," and I would assume that's because of Tony experienced a lot of anxiety and even panic attacks after the first Avengers movie. Which, I mean, if I had to, fly into a wormhole to save New York, I would probably have nightmares and panic attacks too.
He also thought he was going to run out of oxygen in the middle of space and never see anybody again either, too.
Right. And he was willing to make that sacrifice, which in the end he did.
And he lost somebody who he kind of looked at like a son figure in, Peter Parker. So all of that combined, Tony definitely kind of understood where he was coming from more so. Of course, the Lebowski joke that we talked about, That's fine. Well, he literally looked like Lebowski.
He really
right?
did.
Now you see people like at MegaCons and Comic Cons, and you're like, are they Lebowski or are they Fat Thor?
A little bit of both.
Yeah, maybe both. If they're holding ice cream in their hand, they'd be Thor. If they're holding a
White Russian,
then they'd be Lebowski.
But
I like it.
It is interesting, especially with this phase. We're now starting to dive into this aspect. So you see Wanda with her loss and how she was grieving everything. You see even Falcon, becoming Captain America. He was going through his own struggles. Bucky, it's just
Bucky's
so
actually at a
interesting.
therapist with Falcon.
Yeah.
They're going to couples therapy. I love it.
A little couples therapy session. I love that series. I know people poo-pooed it, and mainly because it did have its faults, especially with they had to rewrite stuff because they were supposed to unleash a virus.
Oh, because the vaccines.
And it came out during pandemic, at the quarantine. So it was like, I understand why they redid it, but it was so enjoyable though for me.
I thought it was well done too. And you got a lot of great action right away, and it touched on real issues as well.
Yes.
I do really actually enjoy that series. I like it a lot. And then look at Loki. I know everyone's like, "Oh, we're seeing a Loki," but we've seen different aspects of Loki. We've seen different Lokis.
Literally.
We're seeing one now who, like, yesterday was this villain. To today, he sees a whole different side. He meets himself. He learns about everything, and it's just we're finally starting to get to see it. And so, have you seen a correlation? I'm very curious. Have you seen a correlation of specifically maybe men who are comic book fans are seeing it kind of worked out in this big screen, being more willing to come and get help and being like correlating the two? Or is it just nothing?
I see people, when I point it out to them, I see that a light bulb goes off for a connection. But I really wish that this would happen. I wish a patient would come to me and be like, hey, because of Fat Thor, I realized that I had depression and I needed help. Or, hey, because of Cap talking, to a group of people about, loss, I want to come in for therapy and some medication management for prolonged grief, or just, hey, the 2002 is a absolute insane time to be alive. And with everything going on in the world, I would like to come in for help.
Yeah, it really is. God, it is. I was talking to my wife the other day and I was like, man, it's hard to want to be alive lately. Yeah. And I didn't mean that in a way that I was like, I want to go die. It was just
I totally know what you mean.
It's just hard to be excited. I was just, gas is over $5.
Yeah.
And you go to the grocery store, buy the same 5 things and now costs $100 more. And every time you turn on the news, there's something happening out there. So it's like, man, it's just, it's tough. And so when you move to these comic books and you're using these comic books as an escape, but now we're kind of into this phase that's like, well, they're dealing with their grief and it sets off these light bulbs. I hope that's giving people a platform, men and women, to be like, all right.
I think that's awesome that people are connecting those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you see yourselves in these heroes, right? Whether, it doesn't matter what race, what walk of life, any of that, you're kind of seeing yourself. And something that I know we have a question about is, how do you think that men and women are treated differently as far as mental health goes in pop culture? Because if we look at like Wanda, right, in the latest Multiverse of Madness, she was like, you do whatever you do and you're seen as a hero. I do what I do and I'm seen as a villain. It doesn't really seem as fair.
Well, it's just like in business, women who are driven and goal oriented and are working towards being on top, they're seen as shrews,
bossy,
right? And bossy, and they get called all types of names. But a guy who's like that, it's like, oh, he's ambitious. That's our guy right there.
He's confident.
Yeah, and it's like, and if a woman's confident, it's like, oh, she's a bitch. And it's like, well, no, she's confident. She should be confident. We should all be confident. Everyone should believe in themselves.
Oh, how did she get to the top? I'm sure she worked her way to the top.
Yeah, stigma's attached to it,
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I know.
And then in regards to like the mental health, most of my patients are women. I'm not, and I just feel because men don't want to come in for the help, but women are more. There's a reason that women live longer. they realize that, like, hey, something's wrong, I go to the doctor. And this is why married men live longer than single men. Because a married guy has
forced.
a woman who will be like, hey, your
Go to the
blood pressure's
fucking doctor.
Your blood pressure's up.
My feelings, Mom.
Did you take your,
Like,
did
if
you
you're-
take your meds?
Right. If your chest hurts, go talk to a cardiologist.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, I always say I'm going to put on my husband's tombstone. He said it'll be fine.
and because men aren't at home talking to their wives about these issues because of the stigma, there's no one telling them to go get help. If men started telling their wives with knowing that it's safe to say, okay, like, hey, I'm really been depressed lately. I'm really down on myself. I just I'm in a bad funk. I don't know how to get out of it. A woman would turn around because they are more logical with this stuff. There's no doubt about it. Woman would be like, all right, well, there's that guy who makes those videos about the Marvel characters. Go see him. You know?
Yeah.
A guy on his own isn't going to do that. And my male patients that come in, most of them are married, and they'll say, my wife told me to come in.
And I bet she told him multiple times before he listened.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Look, it's going to take multiple times. It is. All right. It goes back. Well, not even that. It just goes back to us having that. we feel like we're stronger. We feel like we're fine. We feel like we can work it out other ways, and that talking to somebody is seen as a sign of weakness. It just how that kind of is. And so, yeah, you do have to tell us multiple times, but it's not just for that reason.
And unfortunately, in our country, too, people hide behind the cost of mental health. And sometimes they're not hiding. Sometimes it's legitimately like, do I eat? It is
legitimate.
Or do I go talk to somebody? Whereas in, one of the things we saw in Moon Knight, when they're like, and I love that, they right away were like, talking to Stephen Grant, here's a pamphlet for somebody who can help you. And that would be paid for because he's not in the States. So that is a big hurdle here that like, oh, well, I have to go spend X amount of money, for this or that. Is it really that important? Well, yeah, it can be, especially because your mental health affects your physical health.
Absolutely.
I have patients that have to be seen in the office because their insurance won't cover telepsych visit. And it's like, that doesn't even make sense.
I don't like that very much because I feel like you lose that connection.
I know, but when people have like jobs and it's hard to get into an office, it's like
kids.
Hey, and kids, it's like I could talk to someone on their lunch hour. They don't have to leave work and lose an afternoon to make the appointment with me. It's like you could easily talk to me between 12:30 and 1:30 when they're at lunch and just go on about their day. But when the insurance isn't covering it, now that's a hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, and you got a married couple. It's like, what are you going to get a babysitter like once a week? That sounds like a nightmare. If I'm getting a babysitter, I'm going to a brewery.
Yeah, we're doing something fun. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
To reconnect.
I mean, you got to pick and choose those things. When you need a babysitter to get a haircut, like you got to prioritize. Yes. And unfortunately, mental health is not always put at the top, even when it should be.
Right.
Yes.
Agreed. And kind of along those lines, so I do have another question.
Okay.
Which villains do you kind of feel are you more sympathetic towards because of some of their backgrounds and things?
Dr. Doom.
That's a really good answer.
Dr. Doom wants what's best for everyone. He just has this mindset of, well, as long as everyone kneels before me and realizes that I need to rule, because I will take care of everyone. It doesn't matter what the issue is. I will figure out a way to fix it. You just have to pledge your allegiance to me. I'll take care of it all.
I feel like that's so many villains, though. Like even Negan. He's like, I have to sacrifice somebody so that I can gain control because I can protect them and nobody else can. But see, if a woman did that, she'd be crazy. A guy does that and he's a villain.
It does have a point, though. I mean, I get it. Who knows better than yourself, right? But you're totally right. He does want to save everybody. And so kind of that sympathetic line is, I've always felt Darth Vader personally has always been someone that I've always been drawn very deeply and sympathetic to, because especially all the lore we're getting now from Disney that they're giving. So he, of course, made the wrong decision, and he always was struggling with his attachments, with not really having that father figure, because Obi-Wan was not that father figure he needed in life. And so Palpatine kind of was. And then as soon as Palpatine got what he wanted, he dumps him. He spends all these years just trying to torture him, leaves him in pain. And you can see bits of the good in Darth Vader and how he
and then
wants
Palpatine wanted to replace him with his own son.
Exactly. Palpatine wants to replace him and everything. And so I've always been like, man, Vader, Anakin could have really used someone to talk to, just not the guy he chose.
Anakin had issues to begin with. I mean, he seemed like a well-rounded kid, but he definitely had issues to begin with. And I think that's why he was like, the level of his midichlorians combined with his vulnerability is what made him so dangerous. And I think that's why I loved the Ben Solo, even as much as you dislike Last Jedi and whatnot, he just wanted to be evil.
Those films.
Right, but he struggled. It was like he couldn't kill his mom. Like he paused. He wanted to be evil and he couldn't be evil.
And that's what I
thought that was such a different and interesting villain arc.
Yes.
Well, I love seeing the struggle, right? It's that because you can relate to it as human beings on a day-to-day basis. We have these choices and
you want to kill your kids, but you don't.
Well, not even that. It's just, it can be something so small as somebody just cuts you off.
Do I want to be a jerk today or do I not want to be a jerk today?
You struggle with that line of good.
Someone cuts you off.
Well, you have these laws in place and you have everything that you struggle with day to day where it's very easily you could just choose to be the villain in somebody else's story, or you can be the good guy all the time and help people. It's just... So seeing that struggle on the screen was like, for me, it was like, well, yeah, it perfectly makes sense. Like he's struggling. I get it.
I really like that. Are you going to be the villain in somebody else's story today?
You're always going to be a villain in someone else's story.
Because if someone cuts you off or I've cut somebody off and been like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off or I'm in whatever. And it's like,
mistake, but they don't because we're not.
They did it on purpose.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. The best that ever happened to me, it was this one guy almost like ran me off the side of the road, and then we were up next to each other at the light, and he looked at me and was like profoundly apologetic. I am so sorry, and I just started laughing because we've all done that.
We've all made mistakes.
And this was before smartphones.
Exactly. And so it's just always those fascinating things. You're always going to be wrong. It doesn't matter who
Matt,
you are.
I'm going to start using that. I don't want to be the villain in anyone's story. I'm going to wake up and say that every morning. I'm not going to be the villain in anyone's story. No, you're right.
The first time your kid asks you for something to eat and you're like, wait a minute, and I'll do it in a second, you just become the villain in the kid's story.
Your kid, they're like, Mom sucks.
I made Ruby wait 5 extra minutes to feed her just because I'm still trying to struggle to wake up, and I'm the villain in her story for the rest of the day.
I told my kids who just had Chick-fil-A that they couldn't eat more stuff, so I'm definitely the villain in their story.
Yeah, see, best intentions.
But
every villain has the best intentions.
Other than when it comes to my kids, that is my goal.
it's within the realm of reason and things
oh my
like
God,
that.
my son, it'll be like 11 and I'm like, you've eaten I'll name like 5 different things. I haven't eaten anything yet. I'm going to sit here and eat a bagel.
Starving.
And how is it like, there are times
I don't know.
We've gone to a Brazilian steakhouse a few times, Teragucha. It's over in Tampa. It's awesome. We've come out of that place so full, and on the way home, my son will be like, was that dinner? Because it's early still. And I'm like, bro, I'm ready to take my pants off in the car because I'm so full. The air conditioner can't blow cold enough. The windows down. Like I'm dying right here from all the meat I just ate. And you're thinking of what could possibly be the next meal.
How?
I'm glad I'm not the only one who has a kid that says that. So was that lunch? Was that dinner? What did you think it was? And a boosh.
And all of a sudden, it's 8 o'clock. Are we having dinner? What do you think we did at 5?
Starving.
My kids do that crap. Oh my God. And then every night, what's for dessert? I didn't have dessert every night as a kid. Why do you think desserts every night?
What, do you think Betty Crocker lives here?
Dessert.
We don't live on a cruise ship.
Is little Debbie your mother?
Right.
Yeah,
So we actually have a couple questions. I want to say fan questions, like these are our fans, but they're more so other friends, other friends we've podcasted with. So the Nerdy Photo on Instagram, which actually we just dropped an episode with him about Star Wars, asked, this is kind of funny. I don't know if I want to know the answer. At what point do I start to think my collecting might be a symptom of obsessive behavior?
When it becomes at a point when you're like, I'm not buying groceries this week, or I'm going to skimp on groceries because I have to buy this Funko Pop.
Okay, that's fair.
That makes
I can live with
sense.
that.
But sometimes you just need that Lego set. Like, hold on, let's talk about this.
I mean, do your kids need extracurricular
I
activities?
say that as there's like 12
Ice
Funko
cream.
Pops like right next to me. You know,
If I angled my camera differently, you would see
Yeah.
mine as well.
I can angle mine, and you'd see I have a $300 custom World Championship title belt made for.
Oh.
See,
my
I want one
goodness.
for our podcast. That's what I've been dying for, is a WWE style belt.
Oh, here's
I have several.
we have one friend, Tim, who's come on the podcast a couple times, and he did a wrestling episode, and we joke that we
Yes.
bring him up most episodes, and it's our Stanley cameo. So here's your Stanley cameo. We just saw a wrestling belt. All right, so our only other question is from Kevin on Hops and Heroes, who we had on recently. Which hero and which villain do you feel shudder the most severe mental health issues?
For me, I would have to say Batman and Joker.
Ooh.
Ooh, I was not expecting those, to be honest with you.
Batman has so much. He has so much trauma, adjustment disorder, prolonged grief, antisocial behavior, which goes beyond criminal mindset.
Yeah.
And then you have the Joker, who's just an absolute tornado,
Psychopath.
and psychopathic, like full on chaos, embodied in one person.
What'd you think of the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix?
Oh, God.
Joker movie is so exact for what they were doing. Like, that is a mental health patient. That is a schizophrenic patient every single day. That is every schizophrenic patient I've taken care of.
Wow.
When I worked inpatient, what they think, you can't tell them that what they're thinking isn't true, because it's damaging. So, but they're so convinced that it's real. There's no convincing them otherwise. And then at the end of a story, you don't know, even in the most innocent story of, oh yeah, I helped an old lady cross the street. Was that real? Were you even outside? You know,
I'm about to question my whole life.
you question every single thing that they say, because they don't know, and they're not being malicious with it. They just don't know the difference either.
Huh.
Wow.
That's a good point. That is cool.
Yeah, that movie kind of blew my mind. I was like, wait, what?
There was something else too that was kind of like that, where it got to the end and it was like, oh, that wasn't real. I remember talking to some friends about
Island?
it. No, it wasn't that one. Only because I know it definitely wasn't that one, because the people I was talking to were younger. They wouldn't have known that movie.
Okay,
But
that's fair.
there was something else like that. I was like, well, yeah,
It's a good
Joker
movie, though.
At the end of the Joker movie, like, none of that was real. They're like, what? I was like, he's schizophrenic. We don't know what's real and what's not. Like, if they do a sequel, that's how you would know, because that's what they would
Which
continue
they
with.
are.
Oh, they're
They are
doing a sequel, yeah.
They are.
Okay.
They confirm. Ugh. Anyways, yeah, that's a very interesting. I don't know why I would have thought you would have said, somebody like Moon Knight or somebody so far differently, but because Batman, to me, I'm like, okay, you lost your parents, dude, chill. But diving deeper into that character, which we can do a whole episode on Batman's mental issues,
Yes.
makes a lot of sense.
I think it's interesting you mentioned Joker as well, because we always see Joker as like, he's so playful and he's so funny and he doesn't stop laughing and he has no sense of, right from wrong, and everything's just
that's
a,
mania.
joke.
Yeah.
So do you think if he's like that, he has bouts of depression that follow that?
I'm sure he does, but he's never shown it to anyone.
Well, yeah, because those don't work well in comic book pages.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then you start to feel sympathy for him, and you can't have that. He's the ultimate villain. He really is. There's nothing redeemable about him. Like every other villain, there's something redeemable.
Right.
And anyone who writes will
you're
tell
right.
you, like, when you're creating a villain, you have to have some shred of redemption or truth to what they're doing.
Right.
Joker doesn't have that. He's like an anomaly. There's nothing redeemable about him. There's nothing kind. There's absolutely nothing that you would say, oh, all right, he could be saved. He cannot.
Right. And in the movie Joker, the things we thought were redeemable didn't happen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, we did a whole episode a while ago on sympathetic villains where we, dissected it, and it's, it's Batman. If you live long enough to become the villain or whatever.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Very cool. Not cool,
So-
but
Yeah.
Well, why don't we wrap up this segment? And Andrew, go ahead. Let everybody know where they can find your videos yet again. We really appreciate your time. I'm gonna consider you our resident mental health expert as far as
I would love to be the resident mental health expert. This way, if something comes up, you can be like, get Andrew on the phone.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to do. Anytime something like, especially in this period of Marvel superheroes or whatever, I'm about to be like, hey, let's get our guy on the phone and let's get him on. Let's talk about this. So we really appreciate
I would love to do that. I would love to do that.
I can't wait to see Moon Knight come back. I want more Moon Knight.
I so want a second season of Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
What I liked about Moon Knight is it was a character I knew but didn't care for either way. Like, he was kind of indifferent. And then the series made me fall in love with the character. And I'm hoping Miss Marvel's the same way. Because the character I'm not really familiar with. We watched the first episode. I thought it was awesome. And now I can't wait to see what else happens with it.
Yeah, that's and true. Both my kids loved it too. 9 and 18, and both of them loved it.
It's so good. It is so good. So where can we find your videos?
My videos for work, you can find on youtube.com/Kinsler Psychology. I'm pretty sure I looked at it and that's what it was, but now I can't say for sure because it was like 20 minutes ago. But they're on there.
Again, the links are in the description of this podcast.
Yes.
And if you're in the state of Florida and need help, call us in the office and make an appointment with me. I'll be happy to talk to you and help you through whatever you're going through.
That is awesome. Thank you for taking your time with us. And thank you for actually doing and taking on a job that you're helping break the stigma. Just even something where we talk about something silly like this, comic books, it still helps break that stigma. And as always, if you need somebody to talk to, you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. Mm-hmm. You know, it can be the hardest part of the whole process can be asking for help. So
reach out to us. We can't help you, but we can direct you where to go.
Absolutely. If you are struggling, reach out to us. We can get you help. We can point you in the right direction. And you never know. I'll sit here and I will listen to you if you need help as well. So, Andrew, thank you for hanging out with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We will be right back with our letters to the editor and see you in a moment.
We are back with our letters to the editor. We really have one from our man, Kevin from Hops and Heroes. Go to his Instagram, search Hops and Heroes. See a lot of cool beer and action figure posts. First one, who's the best droid not named R2-D2? Well, that's Chopper.
100%.
That's Chopper.
We're on the same page. I don't feel like we've ever been more on the same page.
Look, I think we just connected on a whole other plane of existence because it is Chopper. There's 100%
Chopper. Yep.
If you've seen Rebels, it's Chopper. He does things. He rivals R2 in my mind. Like,
yes,
hands down.
He's worse than R2, but he's better at the same time.
Oh, he's such a dick. But that's the best because he's sassy, just like R2, but to a next level. So,
yeah, he's Chopper. A sassy droid.
Which superhero has suffered the most? Who do you have?
I want to go Thor, but I feel like you're going to go Batman.
Again. I said Thor. I was going Thor.
Well, there you go. It's going to be a real easy letters to the editor.
If we're talking MCU, it is Thor, hands down. There is nobody else.
Too much.
He has lost his brother multiple times now. He's lost Asgard, his dad, his sister, his mom, Jane. Like, the guy was also feels like he was responsible for the Earth being snapped, or the universe being snapped.
Right, because he didn't go for the head.
He didn't go for the head. And so it's Thor. Yeah. If we're talking strictly like cinematic purposes, yeah, it's Thor. We're 100%. Look at us. Again, that's 2 for 2.
2 for 2. All right. 2
for 2. So tell me.
Like we need those cards now. Like we have to write down our answers.
Yeah. So tell me, which supervillain would you most like to see become a good guy?
Magneto.
You know, I don't actually know. I didn't have like a clear answer for this one because I have a couple of people. Magneto's one. Dr. Doom's kind of another. But Dr. Doom's not really a good guy. He's not a bad guy.
Right. And I know we did just talk about Dr. Doom, but in the comics, he is sometimes a good guy.
Right. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Magneto, especially in the movies that we've seen. I'm talking movies because it's a broader audience. We've seen him be that kind of good guy. So, yeah, I guess, you know who I wouldn't mind see become a good guy would probably be... I would like to see Reverse Flash as a good guy, just because it's pure chaos. He is pure chaos. So it'd be interesting to see him be a good guy. Like, what could he do as a good guy with those kind of powers?
But I feel like he'd never have his powers if he was a good guy.
No, he wouldn't. I'm just had to think because Magneto. I'm just purely thinking who is the most chaotic. I was thinking
Ben Solo too.
So, man, I fully wish that we would have gotten him come back to the light side and have to take down the dark side, but he's dead.
I feel like he never came to the light side out of pure intelligence of the fact that people were not going to be like, oh, you're a good side now. And I know we talked about this last month.
His whole thing coming to the light side was just for Rey. It was for some booty. So,
I mean, yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've done for some booty? I can tell you I've done probably much worse. So
I've never gone light side for some booty.
Let's just say I've never done good things. So what superhero would you love to see become a bad guy?
Does Rey count?
Honestly, if she's a superhero, yeah, I would have liked to have seen Rey. But if we're talking in terms of Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, things like that.
I mean, watching Cap say Hail Hydra was pretty hot.
Yeah, honestly, I think he would be my top choice because he's such a straight and narrow, I'm a good guy to a T, that seeing him become a bad guy would have been really freaking cool.
And it would have made you question everything you believed in.
Exactly, because it's Captain America. He's a bad guy now. Because look at when they showed that page of him saying Hail Hydra. Everybody flipped out.
Oh my gosh, that was like a news article. Yeah, people were losing their minds.
Exactly. And so, yeah, honestly, give me Captain America, 100%. And last but not least, which superhero team would win the Super Bowl?
So he said we should save this for January, but I would forget it by January. So we're going to answer it now.
Forget it by January.
I'm going with X-Force.
You know what?
And not the comic book one. I'm going with the Deadpool 2 version.
I'm going Suicide Squad, and I'm going James Gunn's Suicide Squad. They got some tricks up their sleeves. All right.
They would end up like running the ball towards the goal that they're not supposed to if you're going James Gunn.
No, they wouldn't. They would straight up do something.
They killed the good guys thinking they were the bad guys.
It doesn't matter. They would do whatever it takes necessary to win.
They're kicking the field goal on the wrong goalpost.
They would go for 2 when they need to.
They're doing that 2-point conversion on the wrong side of the field.
Nope. Give me James Gunn Suicide Squad.
All right. Well, your Super Bowl team's going to lose to the X-Force.
Well, it's not the Justice League because
Peter is going to run the ball all the way and win it all.
The X-Force literally dies before they hit the ground.
They're going to die after they win the Super Bowl. Or maybe they all die and Domino runs the ball at the end while your Suicide Squad is...
extremely good luck.
Exactly. So odds are in our favor. I don't know how cinematically that will work, but I have a feeling it's going to work.
I don't either. We'll figure that out. Semantics. Nobody cares.
So X-Force wins against James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
No. We'll put a poll. Well, that's
just
not
facts.
how this works. That's not how this works. No.
Half your team died before they got to the mainland.
Your team didn't even make it to the ground either. They all blew up and died and hit light poles.
Not the whole team. Peter made it down.
And not the whole team died before they hit the mainland.
Peter died trying to save somebody else.
Peacemaker, Bloodsport, Harley, Ratcatcher, they all survived. King Shark survived.
After they killed half of their own team.
That's still more than your team who fell from a plane.
Your team had to kill half the team just to get people to keep watching the game.
Yeah, that's ultimate football.
My team was like, you know what? If it's just Deadpool, I'm still in.
Your team is a bunch of 6-year-olds out there picking their nose, playing in the grass.
6-year-old legs and penises, but the rest of us is full grown.
No, it does not feel bigger in that hand. It does not. So you're
just, what does he say? Straight cocking it in your Hawaiian shirt?
Exactly. So
we're winning the Super Bowl straight half cocking it.
No, X-Force doesn't win this one. So let us know what you guys think.
Seems a bit derivative, but we're winning.
Let us know. The people. We're giving it back to you. The people.
I don't know how this is really I mean, I feel like the statistics alone explain to you that the X-Force wins.
I've given you plenty of reasons. So
no, you've given me plenty of excuses why you lost.
You don't even make any sense anymore.
We jived until the last question.
It all falls apart at the end, folks.
There
see
you
what
go,
happens?
Kevin. There it is.
There you go. I hope you're happy. The chaos has reigned. So
if only we could go back to the days of Chopper.
We were close. We were there. We were so excited to when we were young. But here we are.
Do you think The Boys comes out in an hour?
No.
Fuck.
So we will see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. If you're still with us, subscribe, share the podcast, all those good things, and let us know who would win the superhero and or supervillain Super Bowl. We will see you next time. Cheers.
Hey everyone. I don't have much time, so I'm just going to get right to the point. My name is Jordan Arith, and I host a podcast called Hop Heroes. Myself and two of my good friends discuss comic book stories while drinking delicious craft beer. You can find us on...
What's up, bro? What's going on here?
Oh, hey Zach. JR, how's it going?
It's going well, man. What are you up to?
Oh, you know, nothing much, just talking to myself, practicing lines. You know the drill.
Oh, really? Because it sounded like you were recording the promo without us. And I'm just really confused as to why you would go and do something like that.
I wasn't recording without you guys, and why did you knock when you came on? It's a podcast. That doesn't even make any fucking sense.
Hello, everyone. This is Zach Barlow, the host of Hop Heroes podcast.
You're not the host.
I am joined weekly by my counterparts, Jordan and JR, and we will break down Great Brew and discuss the comic book universe. You can find me every Wednesday on all podcast platforms, and these guys will be there as well, I guess.
This is probably why he didn't want you on the promo, Zach.
I'm the host of the show.